There we go. Sorry, say that again.
Did Reese leave us? Has he gone?
Yeah, he's in the car. He was driving to Leicester. So I
Okay.
don't know whether he might just be in a bad signal spot. He might just come
Okay.
back. That's fine. So there's as well as Reese, there's two others that had registered that aren't here yet, but that's all right. We'll share it with them later. Right. So let's get started. Morning, team. Unless you've got a particularly noisy background, I'm quite happy for you to be unmuted. I like my sessions to be really interactive. Don't wait to ask any questions. Just either raise your hand or throw something out there. Please ask away. I often say to people, use me and abuse me while you have me here for the next 90 minutes. I have made a bunch of notes of things that I want to go through with you. But just ask away. I want this time is your time. Make it as relevant for you as possible. Now, it was interesting slash kind of expected from my perspective when I asked you to fill in your three biggest challenges, that practically across the board they were the same. Not that that was a major surprise, but that it was at least good to know. I think one of you, and I don't know who, but one of you talked about technical knowledge development. I'm going to put that straight out there. I can't help you with that one. That's really simple. Let's just take that one off the list. The rest that you gave me worked. So if I had to summarize the key challenges that are currently going on, it's finding new clients and then converting them in, or finding new leads and converting them into clients. Time management came up, which is fully what I was expecting. And then there was a kind of combination between accountability and confidence. So I'm going to do my best this morning to catch a little bit of all of that in a conversation that we're about to have. Now, I'm pretty full on and pretty fast paced. If I am going too fast, please tell me. I always try to cram in as much as I can. As I said, I just want to make sure that you leave with as much as you can. For anyone that's wondering, the funny accent, I'm originally from Belgium. Before you spend 20 minutes trying to place that. There you go. Answered already. Anything else that I wanted to do? Questions I've done, interactive I've done. I potentially might ask some questions that might challenge you a little, where you might just feel like I'm just pushing you. That's good. That's what we need. So please take that with the love and care that it's meant to, because by being pushed a little bit, that's how we grow. So that's a good one. So just know that it comes from a good space. There we go. Let's quickly start. So from what I'm understanding, obviously you're all new into this role. Tell me, as just unmute yourselves, tell me, and I'll go a little bit in order of how you're appearing on my screen. So we'll go to Ed first, then to Neil. Tell me one key thing that you want to get out of the conversation this morning that would really help you kind of walk away and go, this was good use of my time. Ed, Neil, then Manisha.
I guess kind of one of the main things for me is how to go out and find people and kind of engage with them and actually kind of not inspire me. I'm already kind of inspired, but kind of actually to push me further and kind of actually go try this, try X, Y, Z. Have you thought of this? Things like that.
Got that. Perfect. Thank you. Neil?
Completely into that. Generating new business, I think, is the key thing. You know, anything and everything relative around that would be very, very useful.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you, Manisha. And then we'll go to Hadley and then to Anna.
Similar to everybody, basically converting the leads. We are getting to sit in front of clients. We are getting sufficient leads, at least in the last couple of months. But my only challenge is I don't see the conversion happening very soon, very fast. The conversion time is quite long. And that creates a little bit of panic and anxiety because we're not seeing the numbers coming in, which we should be in the since we have already been 6 months. So that's something which creates anxiety.
Okay, cool. And then that's stress, and then that doesn't help, and then and it's a snowball, that one. I understand.
Exactly.
Hadley and then Anna.
Yeah, I think echoing what some of the guys have already said is, you know, finding new business or converting leads that have already been sent our way. Also, on the flip side of that, I think for me, understanding soon enough to recognize where there is no opportunity and kind of learning how to actively close that down as my decision, because we're kind of, you know, whilst we're not telling clients this, we're kind of desperate for business at the minute. and being very polite, and probably I'm sure we're all going away trying to find answers for questions that aren't really going to convert to any business for us. Ultimately, that's just taking up time and muddying the waters in what our client bank looks like. And I want to really get good at recognizing in that first meeting, right, I might be able to find something out for you, but how do I go about starting the conversation of, look, I don't think there's benefit for either of us going forward, so you can just grey that client out and move on. So kind of both sides.
Perfect. Love that. Thank you. That's a good addition to what's already been said. So I like that. Thank you very much. Anna, and Leanne, I don't know whether you want to add anything to this as well. So
sorry, couldn't find the mute button. Yeah, obviously we're all very similar. A lot of mine is around confidence, so just kind of knowing, yeah, kind of like that I'm on the right track, or just kind of like, yeah, having the ability to actually go to these networking events and kind of feel like, you know what, I can talk to these people and I can possibly bring something from it, or whatever. So yeah, it very much, you know, same as everybody else really, but yeah, just a lot of confidence would be nice.
Nice. Thank you. And Leanne, anything from your end?
Yeah, I'll add now, but then I'll kind of be quiet because these guys know I'm in a bit of a different position now. But I think what some of them are struggling with as well is, and I don't know if you will be able to help, is just around knowing how much to give away for free and knowing when to charge, how much to charge, what that looks like, because they haven't specifically done any cases yet and we don't know how long things are going to take. You know, I'm sure you're aware a bit now that some of it is done on an hourly basis, some of it is done by percentages in the industry. So we have a terms of business which are our maximum limits almost, but there's no guideline as to say, you know, I want to make sure I'm charging enough of what I'm worth, but I also don't want to be ripping people off. But like they've said, they are kind of wanting to get business across, so not underselling themselves, but making sure that they're charging a rough amount. I don't know if you can help with that, but I know that's something that they found.
I'll give you a ring back after.
Shall I just mute Reese because I don't I'm just trying to listen in there going, is this added to what we're trying to say? Okay, so that's an interesting one. So is that not, I think I assumed, and that's just showing you should never assume, that you would have been given a structure from your umbrella company as to what you should or shouldn't be charging with what where. I can kind of see a nod of yes and a nod of no. That's confusing.
That's the grey area, is that everyone charges different and we have those maximum limits that we can't go above. But these guys are just starting out, right? So they don't want to completely undersell themselves, but let's say it's percentages. Some people charge 4%, some people charge 2%, some people charge 1%. So it's that's the hard part, is to knowing where to pitch themselves to get some business across the line, but then so they've actually got a business running as well.
It's a really tough one because you're told that basically it's around obviously building these relationships and building up your client bank, as well as, you know, we all need to put food on the table. So it's a very hard decision between, should I not charge and therefore, you know, go down the growth perspective of this client might bring me something else, or do I charge now and, you know, see where that goes? It's a really hard decision, and no one I've found, you know, can tell you exactly what to do. It seems to be very conflicted.
Same with me as well. I couldn't find anybody who could actually guide us. They give us the numbers that is there on our terms of business, but nobody is clear or upfront what would be a reasonable amount to charge. And when you tell these percentages to the client sees the terms of business document and they are super shocked. They don't want, I mean, they take their own time to get back to you. Then you have to kind of console them that, okay, this is not the number that you will be charged. Then why are you kind of sharing it with them if that is not the number?
Okay, cool. That helps actually. So we're good. Hadley, go.
Yeah, just before you get into your parts, just to want to add that speaking with my mentor, and I don't know if anyone else has had similar conversations around fees, but he suggested that 3% is kind of industry norm for initial fees. But he's told me, he's advised me at least, that 3%, but cap it at a maximum rate, because obviously the work involved, regardless of a 50 grand investment or £1 million investment, isn't necessarily worth another however many thousands. So yeah, maybe try looking at that. I mean, mine he suggested as an initial fee of 3% capped to £6,000. And that I've only kind of presented that once and it seems to be received well. So just worth bearing in mind if anyone wants to have a go at that.
Perfect. Actually, as you were talking, I've made some notes, so I'll make sure that I add that in. So let me just backtrack for all of you right now. Like, tell me who is, and you can do a combination if you want to in the chat box, or whether you want to come on and talk me through, like, what kind of marketing are you currently doing to get the leads? Now, I know that your head office, shall we call it for now, gives you leads. So some of you will be getting the leads, but is anyone else doing anything above and beyond the leads that you get from them?
Yeah, I've been doing the odd social media post on Instagram and LinkedIn. I've actually recently printed out, it's very schoolboy, but printed out like well, you can't see it, a bio of what I can offer and stuff. And I'm going to go maybe look at some nice houses and post them through letterboxes. So bit old school, but hopefully if I post out 20, I might get 2 calls and I might get, half a chance of
Hadley,
business.
quick question. If you're going to put it in drop boxes, do we need to take any marketing approval or anything like that?
I don't know. I've not been told otherwise, so I'm going to do it and then deal with it
Ask for
after.
permission. Don't ask for permission. Ask for forgiveness later.
That's it.
I
Yeah.
love that attitude. Obviously, we're not sharing this recorded link with anyone.
You are supposed to get authority, Hadley. I know that because I asked a question. So
Well, you shouldn't have asked, Neil. I haven't asked.
no,
So.
I know. Yeah, ignorance is bliss, mate. So we didn't have this conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
No. It's only recorded, but only we will see it, so it's fine.
Sorry, can I just ask Hadley, with the ones that you put on social media, did you get permission from the marketing team for that as well, or did you just
At first I didn't know, and then I got an email after they had a look at my page and said, oh, you've got to get permission. And then since then I have only been uploading the pre-approved ones from the Quilter website, to be fair. But I don't know if anyone else saw the Sprout social email. I've managed to get in on that. So to be honest, it all looks a bit crap so far of what I've seen. So I've not posted anything, but
it is very basic. It is very very basic.
just news articles. Yeah. But
so a bit of social media, you're thinking of flyers, and the leads that you're getting from your head office is what you're currently doing. Neil, what about you?
No, I'm similar kind of to what the other guys are doing as well. I've also looked at some sort of paid lead generation scheme, like an unbiased type thing.
Yeah.
I haven't yet signed up to it, but that's something that I may look at.
Okay.
But just going back to some of the other comments that the guys have said as well, I think part of the problem, and this is maybe a tad controversial, but a lot of the experienced, long-standing advisors, dare I say, don't actually follow the rules correctly. For want of a better phrase, yeah, and I mean that right across the board, up to and including sort of like the initial disclosure elements and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
They will do it in a completely non-standard, compliant way, because as we are experienced as new advisors, doing it the correct way, it nearly always puts most sort of clients off, simply because of the majority of the leads that we're receiving at the moment. They're not really coming to us with a need as such. They're not coming to us because they need financial advice. They're coming to us because of alternative reasons, if that makes sense.
Right.
So it's a harder sell. If you then sort of throw in the charging structure and doing it in the correct, compliant way, I think it's putting a lot of clients off, personally.
Okay, interesting. Ed, anything from you from a marketing perspective?
Yeah, so in a previous life, I was a musician. I still kind of am. So I do lots of gigs all around the place, and there's always brochures and programs. And I put in a page saying what I do.
Nice.
And kind of it's kind of a couple of nothing solid yet.
Okay.
But the general crowd seems to be around 40 to 70 years old, which is prime territory.
Yeah. Like that. Interesting. Manisha, what about you? Anything extra above what's already been said?
So what, at least in my end, I am new to the country. I have it's been 2 years that I've been in UK. So I am kind of part of a lot of social groups, trying to make new friends and all of those.
Nice.
So many community-wise friends, regional area-wise groups and all of those things. So I have kind of put it out there that I am doing this. They have weekly promotional posts or something like that on Facebook and WhatsApp and all. So I put in my LinkedIn bio and my Facebook links and all of those in those groups. There have been people who have reached out to me. There is a nice group of friends wherein some lady reached out to me saying that I have discussed with my friend and I want to do this. So I kind of met them up, understood what their requirement was. Seems like a decent transfer from SJP because SJP is having problems and all.
Yeah.
So my outlook has been that I am putting it out there wherever these groups are, because frankly, I don't have a friends and family network existing here to
Yep.
rely on. So I'm making new friends and kind of putting word out there that I'm doing this. I have had a couple of leads coming in from our website also. I don't know if anybody else has got. Now, our Quilter website has our bios put in there with regards to our postcodes. So I recently had a lady put in her postcode. The nearest advisor she got was me. She clicked on my bio. She sent a query, came to me, and I'm meeting her this week to kind of convert the client, and she
Nice.
will be on board. So that's also something which has worked, because that won't be counted as a company lead. It is my personal lead. So I get a higher cut in that.
Nice. Like that. Love it.
So some
Anna?
of these things, random things have been working out basically.
Perfect. Anna, what about you?
So I'm attending a couple of networking groups in Milton Keynes. Yeah, just trying to, I know that nothing's going to come from the first session, so I'm just trying to kind of show my face a little bit as much as I can, and then see what happens from there. But yeah, just getting out there.
Networking. Okay. Leanne, anything that you're doing that I know that you're slightly different, but still.
Yeah, I've got a couple of leads that are going to help me towards what we call competent advisor status. But at the moment, because I've transitioned to the employed team, I'm kind of servicing quite a few because they're behind on some reviews. So I am not necessarily looking for new business right now, but at the same time, I need to get a couple of cases through to get my status, which I'm doing. So I'm not really doing much marketing. I was trying to do the LinkedIn and a bit of social media and stuff to build up my presence in the area of who I am and stuff. And obviously I'm part of BNI, which you know. So yeah, I am keeping my foot in the door from a marketing perspective, but I don't need to go out and do it on a day-to-day basis.
Just want to check whether there was anything else. So I guess the first question, when it comes to marketing, the one key thing that, actually there's a few thoughts that I have, but the one key thing that is often overlooked is how clear are you on who it is that you want to target? Now, we've already heard a couple of things, right? Somewhere between 40 and 70 is good. I think someone filled something in to say, I want to make sure that I get to people before they get to 60. So I want to catch them earlier on. Some of you, actually all of us in this group here are of a nice young age. You know, there's a lot of, when I've been doing a lot of networking in the 15 years I've run the business. Some of the IFAs that I meet have been IFAs for a long time, and you wonder why they haven't keeled over yet. So you know what I mean? We're kind of attracting, because we always attract where we are ourselves. So we will find the groups that you circulate with are the same kind of people than the people that you love hanging out with in general. So how clear are you on who it is that you want to attract? Because people between 40 and 70 is too vague. People between 40 and 70 that are in a 2-mile radius of my business address is still too vague. Are they families with young kids that are still in primary school? Are they families where both mom and dad are working? Are they newly divorced mums? Are they newly divorced dads? The more niche you can be, the more clear you can be on who it is that you want to talk to. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you have to have one here. You could have multiple. Now, in marketing terms, they often refer to them as avatars. I don't like that. Makes me think of the blue things that were on the film that I never watched, because it freaks me out a little bit. But if tomorrow someone walks through my door here in the office, I need to be able to have a checklist that goes, are you this, tick, 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 tick. Yes, you would be the right client for me. Now, when you get started, that is really hard. Oh, let me just let Sashin in. When you get started, that is really hard because you might think this is my target audience, but it might not be. Actually, you might not fully know. And then my key thing is always go out there. Like, you need to speak to as many people as possible to then figure out what or who would be the right person for you to speak to. Now, there's a couple of reasons why that's important. If you said, actually, I want to speak to newly divorced moms or couples who, and I'm just trying to pick some things that are relevant, obviously feel in relevant for you, or young families that have maybe just got married or they've bought their first house are really my target audiences. What you need to say to them, the problems that they have are different. So the language that you need to use to say to them, are you someone who, this is the challenge that you have also, is different. So the more you try to be a generalist, the less your marketing message will stick. Now, to start with, that is hard. So my next question, I guess, links to, and I'm going to flit between marketing and sales here for a bit. What is your weekly or your daily target of people to speak to? Has anyone, like, quick show of hands, has anyone set themselves a weekly or daily target of how many people do I need to speak to? So how can you move forward? Like, I have no doubt that you have started your business doing exactly what everybody else does. You do this around something that you love doing, around a future that you can see for yourself. And you are great financial advisors, despite the fact you might not always feel confident yet because you're kind of new to this, new to the industry maybe, but you've made this decision and you've gone, I love people, I want to help people, so I'm just going to do this. But to be able to do that, you need to be the master of marketing first, a master of sales second, and then you can be a master of financial advising. And the challenge you have right now is you come in and you want to do that third one straight away. But what you're not doing is focusing enough on the first two steps. And right now, and it is the hardest part, and it is creating that momentum, and being in business can be bloody hard. And especially when you get that momentum off the ground, trying to get a business going is a little bit like getting a steam train going. It requires a lot of fuel. And the more you put in, the more momentum and the quicker that steam train is going to be up and running. And once you've got it up and running, then it becomes a little bit easier. And then there's a whole load of other things that you need to be putting in place. But right now, every single day, every single week, the first key thing that you should be having is targets of how many people do I need to speak to? Where am I going to find them? Who's my low-hanging fruit? Because marketing consists out of a couple of things, but actually the key thing with marketing is you've got people that will buy quickly, and you've got people where it's going to take a while to build relationships. So who's got a need quickly? Who do we need to cultivate those relationships with? And then how do we do both of those? What processes have we got in place? But we need to identify both. You need to speak to both. But for you to put food on your table the quickest possible way, what's maybe the first thing that you can sell? Focus on that for now. The rest of the relationships will come. If you just sit in front of a bunch of people right now that are just going to give you long-term relationships, that's not helping you. We need a bit of a combination. So what's something that you can sell pretty quick that's going to give you some money pretty quick that for now you can focus on? And then let's work backwards. Now, you're 6 months in. So it's a great starting point now because it allows you to already go, okay, let's backtrack. What have we done? How many people have you sat in front of? How many of those have become clients or were reasonable leads? So therefore, what's your conversion rate? Now, if you go, I'm not where I want to be by now, great. If we keep that conversion rate as it is, now I'm just going to, for argument's sake, and because that makes it easier for my head to calculate, let's say that your conversion rate right now is 50%, which I would imagine for most of you it isn't, but let's go with 50%. If right now you're saying, actually, I've signed up 4 clients, I've sat in front of 8 prospective clients, I've signed up 4 that will long-term give me, you know, a residual income, but that's not enough. Great. How many would you need to sign at what kind of level? Let's say you go, that's 10. I need 10 of those. Great. So for you to have 10 clients signed up, that means you need to sit 20 meetings at a conversion rate of 50%. So if you need to sit 20 meetings, where are they going to come from? Now, not like lovely, lovely. Now, just think about this. The Olympics are coming up. There is no time. Come on, now. We need to qualify for the Olympics. So what do you need to do? And that's when it comes to marketing. Now, I know that you're restricted on social media, which actually, and this is going to sound really weird, but I think is going to work in your favor, because too many people that are coming, too many business owners I see coming out now and starting their own business focus too much on social media. And social media it's a window. It's a window, and you need to have it. You need to have it at a minimum a website. But actually, it's not going to bring the leads that it should bring in the way that you think it will. If you really think about it, when you go and buy a new product or a new service right now, how much of that is decided based on what you see on social media? Do you see like one post appear and go, that's exactly what I need? And that would only happen if you're in a need situation, not as if you're in at some stage, I need to do this. How many times do you maybe need to follow someone before you make that decision for yourself? That's exactly what your clients are going through. So social media is out. What you now need to do is you need to talk to people. How do we get to talk to people in the quickest possible way? Now, there's two things. Actually, there's three things. Actually, there might be four things. I might come up with a fifth in a minute. I'm very good like that. First of all, circle of influence. Who do you already know? Now, Manisha, I totally understand, and I think you're doing a great job. I had the same when I came, I came into the country. I didn't have any networks, no kids, so no school, antenatal, prenatal, whatever kind of networks either. So you kind of just have to start in a slightly different way. But some of you have got that. Mums at the school gate, dads at the school gate, PTAs, football clubs, sports clubs, singing clubs, anything like that, family, friends. Go and talk to them. They're the first ones, whether you talk to them direct or you ask them for introductions. Who do you know who? Some of your friends might not be happy to share some of their financial situation with you, and that's absolutely fine. Who else do they know? Get them to introduce. So work your circle of influence, create a strategy, a conversation that will help you tap into your circle of influence. So that's a first direct. Those people already know you. They know that you're trustworthy. They might not know that you're trustworthy in this, but give them that opportunity to find out. The second thing is networking. Some of you are already doing this. Some of you might go, don't really like that. Don't really know what I'm doing there. That's okay. That we can learn. But that's the quickest way to start talking to the people in your business community. What are they looking for? What do they need? And you might go, but there's already so many IFAs out there. Yeah, that's true. But there's only one Ed Jones. There's only one Neil. They haven't met Anna yet. And some people will love you and some people will not. And that's okay. But until they get to meet you and get to talk to you, go networking and set one-to-ones. You should at a minimum have 2 or 3 one-to-ones in your diary every single week at this moment in time, because you have time for that. Talking to business owners, talking to people. And you might be a bit introverted and networking might be something that you kind of go, and that's okay. Just go and find a network where you feel comfortable, and you might just have to push yourself out the comfort zone. There's lots of things we can do around networking to teach you how to do that really well. But go networking. The other thing is partnerships. Who else meets your audience? Who else has your audience on their books that you can form a partnership with? Could be accountants, could be mortgage advisors, could be PTs, could be divorce solicitors. I'm just kind of throwing a few thoughts out there. So have a look at you. So when we go back to the first bit of the conversation we had around who is your target audience, what else are they buying? What else are they doing? Who else are they speaking to from a service perspective that you can start forming relationships with? Now, that might not necessarily be a quick win either. Again, it goes back to, you might meet someone who goes, actually, you know what? I've just sat down with a client that needs your advice, and instantly have a few people to send your way. So you might just get lucky, but it might just be that building of relationships. But start that now. Those were three. I did think of a fourth. What was the fourth? Oh, walk-ins. If you really wanted to, you can do some walk-ins. So leaflet drops could be one. I would potentially make it really targeted if you wanted to, especially because leaflets are going to cost you some money. Like, if you think about it, the leaflets you get through the door yourself, how many of those are you really reading? I mean, most of mine go in the bin straight away. But the big places like Domino's or BT or any of the internet providers, they keep doing them because they do them all the time. And that's why they work. They do them all the time. Every week they're in your letterbox, but they've got the money to be able to do that. So that's a slightly different. Now, if you make it a bit funky, that's different. So if you're just going to put letters, I'm a big fan of funky post. It depends on whether you... That's where you might not want to ask for permission. We're going to do it. You've not heard me say this. Anyway, but send something funky in the post. Put it in a nice envelope. Make it something that stands out where people go, oh, that's a bit different. And then they might get in touch. And then equally for them to get in touch, make it easy. QR code so they can instantly book into your diary, or an easy phone number where they can reach you, and an email. So I call that lumpy mail. Now, Hadley, when you were saying with your flyers, that might work. Put your flyer in, but maybe also put in a covering letter and something else that attracts a bit of attention, whatever that's going to look like. But something like that, again, to the partnerships, to maybe business owners where you think, actually, I could go in and talk. A lot of companies right now are helping their teams do great things or provide great services for their team. So can you go in a couple of lunch times a week where you have conversations with the team of a larger business to talk about some of their financial stuff? So something like that could be something else that you could be doing. Couple of first thoughts there around marketing. Where are your heads at right now? I'll do a couple of stops as I'm going, because else. Hi Sashin, by the way, I was on a roll, so I didn't want to stop, but hello. We're recording this, so whatever you've missed so far, you can catch back up.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
That's all right. So what are our initial thoughts here? Oh, not all at once.
I'll go then.
Go on then.
Yeah, I think before you kind of started, well, early on in the marketing bit, I think it's really interesting about having a niche and stuff, and maybe what are your thoughts on how soon we should be thinking about a niche? Is that something we should be really... So obviously with a niche, less audience, but less audience means more target audience, which could mean higher conversion rate. However, if your audience is already quite sparse at the minute, what's your thoughts on how soon we should be really kind of...
That's a great question. So I would say, I normally recommend, and I will send you this afterwards. I have like a two-page, it's got 5 questions with a couple of sub-questions, but it's a really great exercise to do, to identify who's your target audience, where do they sit, what are their problems, you know, how do you talk to them? I always recommend to my clients that you sit down and go, who do I think right now would be my niche? Who do I think will be the clients that I love working with, and what are their problems? Therefore, what kind of conversations do I need to have? What do I need to say at networking, as in, this is the challenge that you have, etc. But as a new business, I recommend that you, right now, it's about numbers. Talk to as many people as you can. Now, what you might find is, as you go through that process for another 6 months, that you go, actually, this is what I thought my niche was going to be, but this is what I'm finding my niche is. And also your niche could change as the world changes and as your clients get older and whatever. And as you get older and as you change. So it's a bit of a combination. I know that sounds possibly like a cop-out, but do that exercise because it will allow you to have better conversations right now. But equally, go and sit down with as many people as possible, but keep an eye on and maybe redo that exercise every 3 months to go, who am I talking to? What have they got in common? So I don't know if anyone has ever seen the Benedict Cumberbatch Sherlock series, and I thought they did that really well. Like when he started to work out how some of the problems were working, they made it like really visual with things popping out. It's a little bit like that. So collect all the data now. That's what I said, like you're in a really great space, because if you've got 6 months worth of data, whether you've tracked it or not, it's fine because you can backtrack it now and it's not too much yet. So collect all your data going forward. It doesn't help you right now and it might feel like a bit of work, but collect all your data right now. In 6 months' time, in 3 months' time, you'll be grateful that you started that. It's a good habit to have. And in 6 months, it allows us to kind of go, actually, what have we just done over these last 6 months to really start understanding who have we sat in front of? What have they got in common? Who are they? Where are they based? And start finding those patterns. What schools are all the kids going to? Whatever that may look like. So that answers your question, I think.
Yes, thank you.
Possibly not in the simplest way, but there we go.
You're going to send over that kind of
Yeah.
questionnaire that will help us have a think about. Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else had any thoughts or questions at this stage that on the back of what I've just talked about?
Yeah, can I?
Yeah, Reece, go.
So for me, I think beyond going into a structured situation where they're already aware that that's why you're there, that you're going to talk about financial advice, etc. If you're striking up conversations with potentially people that could be new clients, I think my issue is getting them to engage in what you want them to engage in. So, I mean, you can tell them you're a financial advisor, but you need to be able to get them to follow on or follow on from that, so that they start seeing where they want to have a conversation with you, or where you want to have a conversation with them, without being a pushy salesman, effectively.
Okay, I've just made a note of that. Reece, leave that with me. I'll come to that next, because that's part of the conversation sales process that I've got, but I've made a separate note of it to make sure that I pick this up. So yeah, that's a great one. Thank you. Anything else on the marketing front that we've just talked about that's either resonating, or where you've got further questions, or where you think, actually, now we call it a BFO, like a Homer Simpson kind of duh moment, something that's popped out where you go, that I'm going to implement.
So I did I really like the idea that you said about kind of thinking about what you feel your niche is. So like if I look at the kind of the things that we have to offer as financial advisors, and the things that I've found that I've really enjoyed so far is the protection side of things. And I really enjoyed that, because I guess the clients that I've had are mums, and I resonate with that.
Yeah.
And so I found that actually I feel that you've kind of sparked something there, because it has made me go, okay, I enjoyed that, and I enjoyed it because I felt like I had that connection with them straight away and I could build that.
Yeah.
So it has kind of made me think about, maybe I need to do more with the nursery. I need to start reaching out to some of the mums and putting some groups together or something. And I think it's, if anything, no kind of questions, but just like a really good thought process in my mind, really.
That's good. That's exactly what I want to hear. So that's great. Ed, you unmuted yourself as well there.
It was just going to say, yeah, it's all great. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Some of it does resonate quite a bit, and just speaking to people, getting out, doing things. I think the one thing that kind of someone told me once is, if you speak to 10 people, 8 of them will think, oh, great, that's fine. One of them might think, oh, I don't really like you, you're quite pushy. But then the other one will go, that's actually really useful. So you may only piss off one person, but there we are. So
that's all right. To be honest, I can do that just walking out the house, and I've not even opened my mouth yet, so that's fine. and that's one of the things when you're in business, you kind of have to learn to grow a bit of a thick skin. Like we all want to. It's one of Maslow's needs, right? We all want to be loved and respected and appreciated, absolutely. But not everyone's going to love us. And that's okay. And I think when you're in an organization like yours, it's a little bit like for me as well. I'm part of a franchise. It means that you can potentially pass someone on to what one anyone else in the room here. If you kind of go, actually, they're not my cup of tea, but they'd be way better having a conversation with Neil, then pass it on to Neil, and vice versa. Some Neil and Ed might come across some ladies that want a lady advisor. Great, you've got two straight away that you can, you know, that you can link to. So there's so much great stuff that you can do where you can still help someone, although it might not be you helping, but equally there are going to be some people that are just not going to like you, and that have had a bad experience somewhere else, and therefore you're going to be tarred with the same brush, and it might take a while before you you know, change their opinion of IFAs, and that's okay too. But let's not focus on those right now, because it's that typical phrase, isn't it? Some will, some won't, so what? Keep moving forward. Always keep moving forward. How many people are you speaking to? That really should be your daily KPI, key performance indicator. How many people have you spoken to today? But you need to set a target first. Is it 5? Is it 2? Is it 20? Whatever that may be for you, but set a target. Try to figure that out based on what you've done already and where you want to be, and then figure that out. Okay, now sales has come up already, and a few things have been said, and I don't know whether you guys have noticed, and it's only because my ears are in tune to it, but I've heard the word pushy 4 times already in the space of the little bit that we've been online today. Now, when I do this conversation or do this exercise, when I run events, I often do association exercises. So I might just go, write down the first 3 words that come to mind when you think money. Write down the first 3 things that come to mind when you hear salesperson. And then I get people to share it with me. And honestly, in the 15 years I've been doing this, 95% of time I get pushy, slimy, pinstriped suit, estate agents. Those tend to be like the key sort of things that you get back. So we have this perceived notion, and I blame it on The Wolf of Wall Street, both films, to be very fair. But we have this perceived notion that salespeople are pushy, because we've been in situations like that, and that sort of whole finance kind of world from the 80s has given a lot of people that kind of background. So what do? We don't want to be perceived to be like this. We've already identified that one of the things that we want to be is be liked and be respected. So we go the opposite end. So we're not salesy at all. But by not being salesy at all, nothing happens. So it's finding that middle ground. Now, that middle ground, and I'll do this really quickly, quick show of hands. Have you got a mapped out, written out sales process, including scripts and tools that will help you with each step? There's 2 halves, 3 halves. So that means what? You've got something written out, or you've got like a bit of a process, but it's not written out. Where are we sitting with that?
There's basically a structure of like the things that you should be doing and like a checklist essentially, but it isn't detailed and it isn't necessarily followed in that structure by everybody. It's just a guideline essentially.
So I personally have kind of come up with my own through trial and error, where
Perfect.
I have soft small talk conversation openers that I will use. I will then do a little quick spiel about myself and kind of say it's only fair you know about me, as I'm going to be asking you a lot of questions and stuff. I then ask them what their experience is with speaking with advisors and what they're looking to get out of the meeting. And then my initial meeting, there's certain things that I want to have answered by the end. So I jot down on a bit of paper, just roughly, I put protection, pensions, 3 pots of money, goals, age, health, family. So I know that as I'm talking, if there's a bit of blank paper next to that, I've not asked the question.
Nice, great.
So it kind of keeps me on agenda.
Great, love that. And that's exactly where I was going. So great start on that one. If you think about it, when a pilot gets into a plane, what's the first thing they do? They get their checklists out. They sit down and they go, right, checklists, check everything's working. Do you think that a pilot who's been flying for 20 years doesn't kind of know what they need to check? Of course they do. but they still do it, because if on the odd occasion they're slightly distracted because someone's just asked the question and they forgot to do one of the checks, that could be like quite detrimental to what happens next. Yeah, that's exactly what we do. We just wing it. And because we don't really like doing sales, because sales is a dirty word, we wing it badly in many, many cases. But your clients are expecting you, your prospective clients are expecting you to be the expert in this. They're expecting you to lead them by the hand through a process to get to an end where they can make a decision, yes or no. Now, there's a little bit of a flip side with where everything is going digitally. And that's why I said social media, the fact that you're a bit restricted helps to a certain extent, because it makes you go out and have conversations in a less let's hide behind the computer way. But social media and online has got a little bit of a space equally. If you listen and read any of the marketing sales kind of books that are currently coming out, so the current stats are 70% of people that are reaching out to you to say, hey Neil, we are ready to have this conversation, they've done their research online about you before they even pick up that phone. That's quite a lot, 70. Now, the numbers to remember, and this is hard when you start, but just to remember, the numbers you currently need to remember is 7, 11, 4. Your prospects right now need to spend 7 hours with you, have 11 touch points, and see you in 4 different places. So when you think about your sales, your marketing and your sales process, because I think that in the olden days, you could go, this is marketing, this is sales. I kind of feel like it's very much interlinked now. There's definitely interwoven over the years. But if you really think about it, so the meeting, the first initial conversation that you have with them, how long is that? The second meeting that you have with them, how long is that? So how close to your 7 hours are they? What else can you put into your marketing and sales process, in your onboarding process, in your client journey, which is the word I like to use for it, where they get to do 7 hours with you and 11 touch points in 4 different places.
What do the touch points mean? Sorry, now.
That could be anything. That could be you sending them an email to say, really looking forward to seeing you. Please have X, Y, and Z ready. Could be a touch point. You seeing them is a touch point. Anything that they get from you. Could be a postcard afterwards to say, thank you so much for your time. I loved meeting you. Could be a touch point in between meeting 1 and meeting 2. Now, when you start out, and don't get me wrong, there is loads of business, like some of the business owners I work with that have been in business for 10 years plus haven't got this in place either. So don't necessarily go, oh my gosh, I have to do this. But what I would potentially recommend you do is maybe think back of a sales meeting that, or a meeting that you've had recently, where the whole process from meeting this particular person to them signing up went really well, and map out what it was that you did, what it was that you said, and make that your starting point, and then go, how can we improve this? Because ideally what we want to put together a bit of a sales handbook, a process, a flow chart that goes, this is the step, this is the documents that I need, these are the scripts that I need. And just like an actor on stage, you don't necessarily go and do this, because, you know, they learn their lines. So yeah, you might need to learn your sales scripts. You might need to walk up and down the stairs and sit in the car and go through it. So when you get to sit in front of your prospects, it comes out naturally. Now, one of the book recommendations that I love giving with that, I was going to give you some book recommendations, is this one. It's called The Jelly Effect by Andy Bounce. He's the UK's #1 sales trainer. Absolute fantastic guy. Highly recommend you get that. If you are someone who likes listening to books instead of reading books, I'm afraid on this one you can't. It's only in a book version. It's well worth getting. Jelly Effect, it's called. Now, this is good, and I recommend this to all of my clients, especially when they're fairly new in business, for a couple of reasons. He helps you talk about that whole sales process, and he starts with the end in mind. He kind of goes, what are the benefits that you leave people with? What's the value that you leave people with when you walk out the door? And then backtracks that to, and how do we put that in throughout the process? So that's one thing. Ooh. there's also a whole section in here around networking. So earlier when we talked about networking, and I said, that's okay, you can learn that when you read this. There's some really great tips on networking in here, really practical. I mean, it's as simple as, I'm trying to find the page. There is even this like drawings of how to have conversations and stuff like that. I know it sounds a little bit silly, but honestly, it's really great book. Definitely get that one. The key thing I would say when it comes to sales is, and I'd like you to challenge yourself on this, you know, you can do like the little bingo thing. When you really look at the next time you go and sit in front of a client, or you go networking, or you go speak to someone, I want you to do a bit of mental bingo. How many questions are you asking versus how many statements are you giving? Because if you go in and you go, have you got a will? Have you got protection in place? Have you got a financial advisor? They're great questions, but they're yes and no's. So how many questions are you really asking? Or are you doing the, you should have a financial plan? Because no one wants this. Show the value that you bring through the questions that you ask. And we call that up the sleeve questions. Have some up the sleeve questions. And what would yours be? And maybe that's a great one for you as a team to brainstorm. Like, what are some of those up the sleeve questions? And they don't need to be like gut punching. Some of them can be. But that's where it helps if you know who your target audience is, because your questions might be different. For someone who's in their late 50s, 60s, that question could be very different than someone who's maybe, you know, early 30s and just starting a family. Maybe it's not. Maybe they could be the same. So have a mapped out sales process. Be clear on what journey you take your clients through. Keep that 7-11-4 in mind. And then start looking at what are the questions that I need to ask. Because if you're just telling people, if you tell someone something, then it's my truth. If you ask them questions and they tell you, open questions, and they tell you, it's their story. And that's where you want to get to. And there's a skill in that. And that takes a little while. And then we need to track your conversion rate. But that's something we've already talked about. And anyway, does that help from a sales perspective? Any thoughts, any questions? I am going to try to sort of stop at certain points because I know I'm giving you a lot of information. Anything that's resonated? Anything that you go, oof, might just change that?
I have I want to point out here, your way of saying you don't put out statements and ask questions. That's actually something which has worked. The fact find, we have been given a basic draft of a fact find, which we need to ask questions to our clients and have those details in. But you can't really ask them pinpoint like, what is this? What is this? What is this? Because that doesn't work out so well. It is very mechanical, right?
Yeah.
So how I usually work with them is, we know there's an appointment put in the diary. So they have a need. There is a reason why they have reached out to you. My first, after the introductions and everything, my first statement to them is always like, so tell me your story. What made you reach out to me? So
Yeah.
I always tell them, tell me your story, or what made you reach out to Quilter, or what instigated you to think about it. And then they start talking, because everybody loves talking. They want to talk about themselves, what's their pains and what needs help. And then you kind of slowly ask questions. Okay, then what, then why this, then that, and then you steer the conversation that way, but you get the ball rolling. So
Yeah.
my first 15 to 20 minutes of any first call is never me talking. It's always them talking, me maybe asking a couple of questions, but it's always them. And they will give you all the questions. Like Hadley mentioned, right, we have a basic draft of what information we need. I have a nice diary. Each page I have named the client and prepare that before the meeting.
Nice.
And I start noting down whatever they want, and they have relayed all the information.
Yeah.
And if they have missed out something, you don't really ask pointedly, okay, why this, what this? You kind of steer the direction in that direction. There are so many things that I believe I have been able to make them think about which they never were thinking about. They are most of the people that we get appointments are 55 plus. They are all on the verge of retirement.
Yeah.
They're just thinking about their pensions. They have never thought about anything else. So you have to kind of ask these questions, which makes them think about inheritance tax, protections, a lot of those
Yeah.
things which people never think about.
Yeah.
So asking them about their story, that has really worked well for me
Yeah.
at least.
That's a great one. I have this rule when, especially when I like in those very first meetings, and it might even be the meeting before the one that you're saying, it might depend equally on the leads. But like when I do my networking one-to-ones, and Leanne will be able to confirm this, I have a rule. My coffee needs to be finished before theirs. Because when you're talking, you haven't got time to drink.
Yeah.
So if my coffee is finished first, because I've had leisurely time to sip my coffee whilst I'm making notes while they're doing the talking because I've asked the questions, then that means I've done it the right way around.
Same. Even I sit with a cup of coffee in each call.
Yeah. Could be a glass of water if you don't drink caffeine. Just thought I'd point that out. When's the last time, just as a general note, like when's the last time you guys recorded your sales conversations and listened back to them? Now, it's freaking painful, like seriously, really is. And it's really easy these days, right? With something like Zoom, you can just record it if you're doing them online. The reason we often do that, especially is when you're new, you're so focused on certain aspects that you often forget to listen. Like one of these, I know that's a kind of given, but in sales, that is so important. Like, what are you hearing? Are you really truly listening, actively listening, or are you listening to reply? Because if you listen to reply because someone said something to start with, and you want to respond to that, you've missed out the rest of the conversation that they've had. Which is why I always have notepads, so I make notes and go, must go back to that, but then I can listen. And if you listen, you'll miss subtleties. So when you listen back through your recordings, then it helps you get better. If you think about it, actors record what they're saying on stage, or they might film it to see what it looks like. Any of the sports guys watch their games back, or they watch, their races back to go and look at, where did I make a mistake? What could I do differently? It's exactly the same for us. So to get better, you listen back to it. And it's cringe, but it helps you to kind of go, actually, I missed a point there. And it also allows you in that 7-11-4, it allows you to go back to go, actually, one of the things I was thinking about afterwards was, and link back to something that you have missed in what they've said. Hadley.
From your personal experience in doing that, do you think there's a best received way of kind of approaching the client in terms of saying, oh, do you mind if I record this because it's for my own personal development, I'm new to industry? Or
that I wouldn't say. I would just say personal development.
Yeah.
You could equally just say, would you mind if I recorded this? Because we share so much information, it allows me to listen back just to make sure I didn't miss anything, because I don't want to miss anything. And then I will destroy it, and then you tell them what you do with it afterwards. So you kind of make it, I always think, like, if you make it beneficial for them, that helps.
Right.
So yeah, I would just link it. I have said it before. Would you mind if I record this? Once in a while, I do like a spot check on how I can do things better. It allows me to listen back to it, and then I'll record it, and then I'll delete it. So yeah, you can do, but I would never say I'm new to the industry.
So you say that, and that's the funny
Don't.
thing, that I actually did say I'm new to industry, and then I said, oh, the benefit of this is I've got an experienced advisor as my mentor, I've got a big support group, and I asked for feedback at the end of the meeting. And this was a guy who used to work for the Pension Protection Fund, and that was the first thing he said he liked. That I said,
Oh, that's interesting.
So you don't there's no right answer. I
No,
feel.
probably not. I think some people will go, if you knew, then
Yeah, I know.
And also, how long are you going to say that you knew for?
Yeah, I think I did, because I could tell that his technical knowledge is probably superior than mine. So it might be the right time to say, look, I'm not coming in to try and out technical you.
Yeah.
Whereas with a client who maybe has got no clue about any financial industry, it's not really required. It's not, a caveat you need to mention, but it kind of let me off the hook, because if I didn't have any questions I could answer there and then, you know, I've got a big support network. Let me take that away and get back to you.
And that's the other one, isn't it? You'll get objections, and maybe I don't know how much you share that as a team, but you'll get objections from people. You need to know which one are the most common ones so you have a response to them. And I always say, like, the objections that you get, and especially the ones that you get a lot, and Andy Banks talks about that as well, and any of the sales guys talk about that. Objections come because you've not done something further forward in the process. Either it's because of something you've said and you've created it yourself, or it's because something you've done or not done that you get that objection. So if you keep having the same objection, I'm a big fan of throw them out at the beginning, because then you don't get them at the end, because you take away a barrier for them to say no. You want to get those out of the way as quick as possible. So it could be around money. Great. Don't wait with the money bit until the end. Start with it. Put the elephant in the room, cards on the table, whatever that looks like. In a great kind of way, and it might be a bit of playing. But if you keep having the same objections, then that means you've created that somewhere. So it might just be worthwhile, again, backtrack if you can to the meetings that you've had and people have said no. Why not? Let's make some note of that. Let's keep. So for me, it goes back to you're in a perfect position right now. You can backtrack a couple of meetings. Going forward, you can start collecting all this data. So it allows us to really see actually where's your path sitting? Where do we need to improve? What particular bit can we make some changes on? So track all of that stuff. Keep it simple. Doesn't need to be anything complicated, but keep track of that. Like, how can we make that better? I remember when I started as a coach 15 years ago, first of all, no one had heard of business coaching at that stage. So they all thought I was a consultant. All my colleagues were of the grey haired, just come out of corporate because it was a 2008, 2009, you know, dip. Ex-corporate, ex-marketing, sales directors, grey haired, looked like they had loads of experience. And there I stood, like really young. I was still in my 20s, colourful, all. And I thought, who wants to work with me? I look like I have no clue. So guess what objections I was getting? Exactly that, because what I was thinking is somehow you put that out there, what goes round in your head is what comes out. If you think, oh, mustn't drop this, guess what you're going to do? You're going to drop it because that's what you're thinking about. So I created those objections. I had to stop that and go, actually, there'll be people that will want me because I come in with a fresh pair of eyes, because I have a young energy that those guys haven't got, because I'm not set in my ways and I can be flexible. So I had to create a different story around that, especially if you're new in the industry and you keep saying, I'm new in the industry. You're going to keep being new in the industry. That's just a quick example, but it could be anything. Now stop it. You'll bring things from your previous jobs and your previous life and the person that you are to this role that is different than anybody else in this room, anybody else in Quilter, and any of the other IFAs out there. Play on that. Does that make sense? Am I making sense? Seeing a lot of yeses. That's a good one. So I've done the recording, I've done the coffee. Reese, I've kind of answered your question around, don't just tell people, ask them questions, create a question list. There's a really great book. I have got it. It's really hard to find. It really is hard to find, but if you can find it, it's Questions Are the Answers by Alan Pease. I don't think it's on Audible. He wrote this for some of the network marketing kind of companies that are out there, also often referred to as the pyramid schemes. But he kind of wrote it for one of those organizations. But actually, this is gold dust. But as I said, it's not an easy one to find anymore. So if you can find one somewhere, you might need to do like a borrowing across the team and sending it around to people. But this is a fantastic book to really get some like simple ways of asking questions and growing a business. So that's another definite good one. Got 4 more books on my book list. So Amazon will be happy when they see you coming. You should get commission, really. Anyway, there we go. What else did I want to talk about? the one thing, and I more than likely will know the answer to this, but I'll ask anyway. Anyone, quick show of hands, anyone who has got a written 90-day plan? A 90-day plan of action of this is what I need to do. So Manisha's saying yes, but with some lip that I couldn't read, and Anna's doing like this.
Because we were all asked to kind of make a business plan from our organization.
Business plan is different than an action plan, but okay.
Yeah, so I had a kind of one-on-one with my mentor. We got a little deeper into it. What are our steps? What am I doing? What am I doing for networking? Who all am I reaching?
Good.
So we kind of got into all of those plans.
Is it written down?
Yeah.
Is it visible?
Visible? No, it's in a PDF document. Not on this.
We were talking about this. No, I'm not in a school. I don't know why Leanne thought that. I'm not in a school. Yes, I am in my office. But yes, it needs to be visible. Now, it doesn't need to be visible on the wall necessarily, but you could have it as just, you could have.
Yeah, it's in my to-do list.
That's also fine. You could have it on your screensaver on your laptop.
Yeah.
As a screenshot. So every time you open up your laptop, every time you open up anything, it's there and it reminds you of these are my goals, these are my actions. But for me, it goes back to, and I often say this at networking, as business owners, we plan the 2 weeks of holiday more than the 365 days that we work in the business. And writing a plan of action is not that easy, funnily enough. And for me, it goes back to that statement I made earlier on. You need to, at a minimum, have daily action of how many people do I need to speak to? And without that plan, it makes it really hard to create time management. And time management is already something that has come up in some of the question answers that I got from you when you filled this in. How do you know what you need to spend your time on if you don't know what it is that you need to do, full stop? So if I said to you, okay, between now and we're kind of coming up at a good time of year, right? So it's coming up to the end of June. So like with all of my guys, I'm sitting down next week and we're creating a 90-day plan for the next 3 months. So July, August, September. If you really think about it, where do you want to be at the end of September? Let's do that exercise really quickly. I know, Reese, that you're driving, so think about it and you could do it afterwards. But really quickly, like by the end of September, where do you want to be? How many new clients do you want to have? Maybe how full do you want your pipeline to be? Maybe how many people do you want on your database that you're talking to? Whatever that looks like, where do you want to be by the end of September? And this is for you to keep. In the meantime, I'm picking up one of the books I've just dropped. Now that's just a starting point. You could have more than just that. Your 90-day plan could be bigger than just the number of clients, but as a new business, I would imagine it's just around that momentum. So if we said, okay, you want to sign 4 new clients by the end of September, how are we going to do that? So how many have you got in your pipeline right now? And out of those, how many do we think might convert? Goes back to your conversion rate that you need to work out. So that's one of your actions. What other activities do you need to take on the back of the marketing conversation that we've already had that helps you get there? What else may you need to do? What do you maybe need to read? What do you need to research? What learning do you still need to do, whether it's product learning or whether it's business learning? I'm a big fan, as you can see, I've already wafted a few books, but you need to keep improving as a business owner, self-employed business owner, you know, constantly improving your marketing, your sales, your questioning techniques, your, you know, time management. Read books, listen to books. The radio's not helping. EastEnders. What's the last time you've learned anything out of EastEnders? Stop it. Turn it off. Read a book for half an hour. It's one of my key phrases. And then start putting an action plan in place. Now, what I love doing is going, and I've got I can't show you, it's hanging up the wall there, but I've got one where I actually sit down and I go, okay, so July, August, September. For some of you, that means school holidays, kids involved, and therefore you might be away. You might be restricted in how much you can work. Great. Let's map that out there already. So we create that good visual of these are the weeks we're away, or this is when the kids are home, or this is when something's whatever it may be. So map that out. So you've got a really good visual of these are the working days I have available. This is where I want to be by the end of September. What do I need to do? And when am I going to do it by? And then we can start breaking that down. So when you do read Eat That Frog, next book, Brian Tracy, Eat That Frog, yay big, takes you like 2 hours to read. Takes me 2 hours to read and I'm foreign. So you know what I mean? So you guys can definitely read it in the same time. It's 100 and something pages. Great book. Time management. But what he talks about is have a 90-day plan. Be clear on what that means this month that you have to do. What does that mean this week of this month? And then how do I spread that over the days? And I go back to a statement I made earlier. If you have to make a decision on where you're spending your time, marketing, sales, then IFA and a bit of learning. Make your time count. Focus on what's going to put food on my table in the next 2 weeks. What's going to put food on my table in the next 4 weeks if your lead time is longer. They have to be the first activity. Everything else is fun, but it's fluff. Don't do it. Don't waste too much time on spending time on social media. Go out there and speak to people, because right now that's what you need to do. It'd be nice to maybe, I don't know, go to an event or like another learning thing that would be lovely on a new product or service. You don't need it right now. You know what products and services you've got, unless they are like CPD points, or you have to do it because Quilter said you've got to do it. Obviously, I wouldn't go against that. But all the other stuff is just fluff. I don't go on a course right now to learn how to do social media, or you know what I mean? Like something, it's not needed. Just go out there. Does that make sense? Create a 90-day plan. Have your targets, but start with, we are now here, 30th of September. What do you want to say to me and go, Nell, this is what I've achieved. This is what I've done. This is what I said I was going to do. This is what I've done. And then we get to the hardest part. Because being in business can be really tough and it can be really lonely. And one of the great things about working for yourself is there is no one telling you what to do. And one of the worst things of working for yourself is there is no one telling you what to do. So whether you kind of go, oh yeah, I've got to do all these things. But Bridgerton season 3, part 2 is out. I'm just going to watch that instead. Because no one's going, what are you doing? Maybe your husbands or wives might. But aside from that, no one's telling you what to do. So you can just watch Bridgerton. Sorry, it's for the men that might be less interesting, whatever your equivalent is. I can only speak from experience. Now, yes, you might have gone, I got this business because I wanted to create a great work-life balance. And I'm going to be a little bit harsh here potentially, but that doesn't exist. It's a myth. It doesn't exist. If you think about a bike, it only works if it keeps moving in momentum. If you create the balance where you stand still, you keel over. And when you're self-employed, it's really hard to be in that personal space and not think about the business. We're in that business space to not think about personal stuff. And we go back to the steam train. The only way that this steam train is going to get moving the quickest is because you put loads of actions in right now. And it might not be what you wanted to do to start with because you wanted that work-life balance. That will come. And you can do it now, but it's going to hinder your progress. It's not going to make you move forward as quickly. And that's a choice you make. That's okay too. Back to that steam train. If you only put one log on every day, it's going to take longer before the steam train gets going. If you put a log on every minute or a log on every hour, it's going to be quicker to get going. And that's a choice you make. But then we go to that accountability. Who's there to go, come on, let's do this? What are your actions for today? So I had a suggestion, and I don't need an answer to that right now. You can talk amongst yourselves in your WhatsApp group that you have. But accountability is one of my favorite things to do. I'm very good at it. I would like to suggest that for the next 3 months, you add me to your WhatsApp group that you've got. And we do a bit of accountability in that group. And we keep it really simple. I do this in some of my client groups as well. Like I see my clients throughout the week, throughout the month. But every Monday I do right, what's your must achieve action for this week? What has to happen? And that's obviously on the business, not just I need to go for a swim. That's also good. That's important as a business owner, but on the business. What's your target for this week? And then on the back of that, on a Friday, we go, right, update. Where are we? What have been the wins of the week? I hate hearing people come into business with such great dreams and getting to the stage of it's not moving in the way that it needs to move. That breaks my heart. And too many businesses still fail. Like the fail rate of businesses within the first 5 years is huge. It was 80%. I think at the minute it's about 85%. It's gone up. And that's a lot of wasted dreams and shattered dreams. And that has a ripple effect on your families and on you. And I don't want that. Now, I might not be the right person, and that's okay too. I will not take offense. I've got a thick skin. But find someone else that can do that, potentially. But I am offering that as I will happily come into your group and go, right, let's get you guys a little bit of momentum in the next 3 months and see whether there's a difference. If you're not noticing a difference, then maybe you need something else, and that's okay too. So I'm just leaving that as a thought. Leanne, will you just keep me up to date on what the answer is on that one? That would be lovely. And then we'll take it from there. We can start this straight away from next week if need be. But anyway, that was just a thought I wanted to gift to you. That was all. Couple of other book suggestions I am going to make because I wanted to get, and don't like, you can get them all. You won't read them all. I know what it's like, most not, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of a variety of if you wanted to do a bit more learning from a business perspective. So we've already been Eat That Frog, Jelly Effect, and then if you can find it, questions are the answers. The other ones that I love and often recommend, Compound Effect, Darren Hardy. This is also on Audible. Please remember, Audible is like a business expense team. If you spend a lot of time in the car, instead of listening to music, just listen to some books. You'll get more out of that than anything else. You become the average of the 5 people you hang out with. Make these experts one of the 5 people you hang out with a lot. Actually, that's a good lesson to learn. If you hang out with a lot of negative people, sack them. Even if they're friends or family, just sack them. But yeah, Compound Effect, Darren Hardy. It talks about how all the little changes that you make have a compound effect, how it starts accumulating. You understand that more than I do from a financial perspective. You know, it's exactly the same. The other one that I love, this is a bit of a bigger one, Atomic Habits, James Clear. As I said, I mean, just to put that in perspective, that's it's a bit bigger. Really, it's like 200 and almost 300 pages. This is really good to talk about how to change habits. James Clear. Also, can I recommend James Clear and Andy Bounds are plus mine if you wanted to. Leanne, I'll send you the links to all of those. They send out a weekly top tips email, something like, they're the only 2 that I subscribe to. The rest I normally get rid of. But they're always really useful, just with this one's just with wisdom. Andy Bounds is full of top tips. I do a weekly nugget. Again, top tips for business owners. So I will send all of them to Leanne and then I'll let her distribute. Sorry, Leanne, I'm giving you extra work there. But yeah, Atomic Habits. And what he talks about basically is like motivation doesn't exist. Motivation works when you're feeling great. Like on the back of today, you'll feel motivated because we've had a good conversation. You've got some ideas, lovely. By tomorrow morning, when your 2-year-old's kept you up half the night because he's poorly and you've not slept very well and you're not feeling very well, it's a bit harder all of a sudden to get yourself going. So the only way that you start moving things forward, despite of where your motivation level sits, is by having habits. You know, it's that thing of in January, everyone's feeling motivated to lose weight. And by February, we're all having a duvet day. That's what that talks about. And then the last one, this will make you laugh. Last one is Surrounded by Idiots, Thomas Erickson. It's a slightly longer conversation. I'm not going to go there just yet. But I just wanted to say this is all about psychometric profiling. He talks about DISC. It's one of the profiles that I work with. But he basically talks about how we all have different personalities, how we all have different ways of communicating. And I hate the phrase when people go, or treat others the way that you want to be treated. That's incorrect. Because if they're a different personality to you, a different need of communication, then you're communicating in the wrong way. So I use this a lot with a lot of my clients in sales. It's about understanding where do you sit, and then it's about learning to identify where your potential clients sit so you can communicate in a way that's relevant for them. Like some will need lengthy emails with lots of details. Some will just want the bullet pointed version. Some of them, if they've met you and they like you, they're ready to sign up and they don't care about the detail. Some of them will need to see you quite a few times so they can get to know you. They will take longer to convert. And again, this helps massively in sales and with your communication. So this is one that I always put on the list as well. Right. As we have 6 minutes left, I've got two things. First of all, any questions, any thoughts, anything else I can clarify? Now's the time to unmute yourself. And the one other thing I would love for you to do is quickly go through your notes. I'll give you like 90 seconds to do that. Quickly flick through your notes. And I'd like you to highlight or circle it and put a big A with a big box around it to go, this is an action I'm going to take. I want you to pick up 3 actions only. What are the first key priorities? Because I've probably given you a bunch of things. So what are the first 3 things, action-wise, that you want to implement on the back of this conversation? And then I'd like you to unmute yourself and tell me what they are. So yeah, quick look through your notes, circle your actions, and then tell me what you are doing.
Oh, yeah. Seeing as I can't make notes because I'm obviously driving.
Yes, that would be very dangerous. Please don't.
I just want to thank you because my signal keeps
dropping.
Signal is dropping now and again. So I just wanted to thank you just in case it drops out again before the end of the call. I found it very useful, particularly the 90-day action plan idea and where I want to be, obviously, by, as you said, the end of September. So when I do get back in front of a desk, that's the kind of thing that I will be maybe focusing on a bit more and working back to see where I will action that from day to day.
Perfect. Love it. Thanks, Reese. And thanks for being here despite being on in the car. So that's, you know, at least you've done that thing already. You've hung out with some good people this morning. So well done. Who else has got actions ready to share? Oh, sorry. No, go ahead, Reese.
I was just going to apologise for earlier on in the call. I didn't realise that the phone wasn't on mute, and sorry, it cut across Leanne's point in the conversation that she was having at the time. So very sorry about that.
That's fine. Don't worry. I'm quite used to muting people. Don't worry. That's a good thing about having this kind of environment. When I have my clients one-to-one, I can't mute them necessarily that easily. So this helps. But yeah, don't worry. Right. Who else has got actions to share? Ed, you're unmuted.
Yes.
Go.
Can I butt in now because I've got a client in 3 minutes? So
yes,
I will hear as well exactly what Reese said. Thank you. It was massively useful. Loads of different things. I've already just bought that Alan Priest book. Just went straight on the website and bought it there and then. So I've got that. Looking forward to that. The one thing that kind of really kind of all your little phrases like go for the low-hanging fruits. I mean, obviously everybody wants to go and get the person with the net worth of 1.8 million and sign them up, but actually that's not going to happen tomorrow. So and then the other thing was this kind of circle of influence. Obviously just going and one thing that kind of someone said to me about the influencers, networking is not about who you can meet, it's who other people can introduce you to. So it's kind of the kind of effects rippling.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much for that, and I'm going to shoot off and say thank you again. It was brilliant.
Nice to meet you. I will send some follow-up stuff over to Leanne, including the link to recording. And then I think you guys have my details anyway if there's anything. But yeah, I will do like a summary for Leanne with some extra bits and bobs. So
Please,
by all
that'd
means,
be
any further questions, just give me a shout and connect with me on LinkedIn as well, team. Like, by all means, feel free to find me if you haven't done already. Cool. Thanks, Ed. Right, who's next?
take care.
Neil, you're unmuted and you've been quiet, so you're next.
I mean, I just echoing really what you said earlier on about different personalities and the way that different people think. I'm very much a slow burner type person. I have to let things sink in. So I will be very much going back and reviewing the recording of this
Yes.
and talking through it. I'm also probably the world's greatest procrastinator, and the joke being, I'll write a book about that one day.
Yeah,
generally
one day.
am. So the big take for me really is it's like just do it, just start. Just get out there and start talking to people really, and start spreading the message. Throw in as much stuff in as many different directions as you can, and see what sticks, and take it from there.
Yeah, and actually for my procrastinating clients, I always have one tip, just one, like one action, one thing, one. Because you will put 10 things on your list because you're one of those, oh, then you're doing, but because there's 10 things on your list, you don't do any of them because you're a procrastinator. So one thing, and even on a day where you don't feel like it, take one thing off your to-do list and then make a decision on whether you want to continue or not. And that either or is okay. But at least do one thing, because it still means that at the end of the week, 5 things have come off your list. So just one.
Perfect. Thank you.
One is better than none.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Love it. Right, who's next? Sashin. Is that how I pronounce it? Sorry.
Satch is fine, yeah. That's fine. Yeah, no, firstly, obviously, thank you for the call. Sorry I was late. A client decided to call me 2 hours early.
Fine.
And I was trying to get them off the phone. Yeah, no, it was really, really interesting. I think for me, one of the things I'm definitely going to do is really start talking to the wider audience, local businesses and things like that. And obviously, always hesitant to do that because you don't want to, like, say, you don't want to feel like a door-to-door salesman, but they probably also are probably interested in speaking to you as well, because they might think, actually, I need a change, or it's something I've been talking about for a long time, but just never done it. And funnily enough, I just got this email. And definitely the 90-day plan. I'm a bit like Neil in a sense. I've probably started this practice with the handbrake on. I have 2 young children, and I kind of do the lion's share of the things for my kids. So I'm like, oh well, I'll stop work at 2:30, then I'll start again at 6. But then you don't start at 6. You're like, oh, the football's on. I'll start at 9. Then I'm like, well, I'm gonna go to bed now. So yeah, I'm a bit like that. But obviously, a lot of this stuff is, I mean, I've got a very loose plan in my head, but I'm definitely gonna, I think, stick to this 90-day thing and really, get going on it, because it was really, really good.
Perfect. Thank you.
But yeah, no, thank you very much.
No, pleasure. Ladies, Hadley.
I'll go first.
Anisha.
So I have actually noted down a lot, but my what I felt, what initially when we were not having so many clients meetings or so many people to sit in front of, I was at least focusing a little more on marketing and all of those things, trying more to reach out to more people. Now, in the last couple of months, I feel that it has taken a backseat because we have more things to do.
Yeah.
So that's where your priority, you said marketing, sales, and then IFA. I think that I need to implement first again. There will always be client meetings and things to do, but marketing needs to be there constantly. So that's something which I want to again start implementing, and I'll take it as a learning from here. Second thing I want to kind of take in from here is the target clients. I actually want to think long term in this. I have kind of had a brief thought, because the leads that we get from our company is mostly people on the verge of retirement and all. They might be your clients for max 10 years. Their portfolio is going to be declining, not increasing. I want to kind of think next 20 years. So maybe for the short term, as you kind of said, you need earning, you need to put food on the table. So you have to have a target client for a short term and the long term, both. So that's something which I want to focus on. And the third thing would be setting the weekly targets of how many number of clients you are actually speaking with. That's something which is very important. I have totally missed out on that, because there have been weeks where I don't speak to any new clients, and there are weeks there when I speak to many new clients, but I want that consistency to be there.
Love that. Never, and that's a great point. Never stop marketing. Else you end up on that seesaw. You do loads of marketing, and then you get loads of work in, and then you
suddenly died down.
And then you never have that momentum. And even if it means that you do less of it, but every week do some form of marketing, because it helps you, because else that you get that 90 days sort of in, out, and that's that's exhausting. So yeah, don't do that. Hadley, and then we'll come to Anna.
Yeah, similarly to Neil, I'm gonna I wanted to be fully listening, so I'm gonna rewatch to take notes, but I have got 3 bits here that have kind of stuck in memory. So one being I'm gonna create kind of a visual PDF of a process timeline that can be a bit more repeatable for every client. So whilst I have like a good structure now for my meetings, I'd like to have one that maybe starts with, right, an initial email, can you have this prepped? And then do the meeting and then go back to them with this. And so I've got something without stressing of, oh, who have I responded to? Blah,
Nice.
blah, blah. Next one, go back, look at business so far, even if that means no business, but start evaluating that. And if it's 0 in 10 or 15 or 1 in 10 or 15, why is that the case?
Correct.
What could I do to improve?
Nice.
And kind of feeding into that again, because that's, since you mentioned it about if they don't have a need, then, or referrals and things like that, I've already spoken to people who have said that their daughter's just bought a house and stuff, and I'm like, it's escaped my mind, she probably needs protection if she hasn't got it already, and it's like,
Nice.
how can you miss something like that? So now I'm gonna take it into each meeting, right, even if this means no business with this particular client, who have they got around them that it potentially could be
Yes.
business with? So
Yeah, great point. Love that. And also go back to the people that said no 3 months ago.
yeah,
Because they
just
might
check
say
in, how you doing?
Yeah, correct. Love that. Great.
Thank you very much for your time today, by the way.
That's all right. My
Been
absolute
really good.
pleasure. That's all right. Neil, you had your hand up, Anna, and then I'll come to you. I haven't forgotten you.
Apologies, I have to run now, but I just want
That's
to say
fine.
thank
Yeah,
you
yeah.
for your time this morning. I have just gone into LinkedIn to try to search for you, and I've just actually realised I don't actually know your name. It would
It's-
kind of help, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that would technically, I think if you put in Action Coach Nell, you'll find me. But if you put in Nell Opdebeck, which is OPDEBECK, you
I can also share it after if that's easier for everyone.
Yeah. I'll put it all
Thank
in
you
the
very
email,
much.
Neil, but thank you.
I have to run, but thank you very
That's
much for
fine.
your
Sorry.
time.
Yeah, I know we're overrunning slightly, so sorry.
Leanne, our glorified PA.
Yeah, sorry, Leah. Well, I kind of feel she might as well do something, right?
Doesn't it?
Yeah. Anyway, Anna, go on. Last but not least.
Well, I mean, obviously, I'm not afraid to say that you and I have met already. So, some of these points were already on my agenda and already part of my target for the week. But that, is definitely one of the things weekly targets is so important for me because I can procrastinate quite a lot and I need that motivation. So I think, first thing Monday morning, set it all sort of like, know what we said, Thursday evenings, setting my weekly targets for the rest of the week and kind of going, what am I going to achieve?
Yeah.
That's a definite for me. I took a really good point of like agenda for meetings. I never think about that. And actually writing down what I want to achieve in those meetings is going to be really, I think, beneficial because I find that I kind of like just flow. And then I'm like, I know I go through the fact finds and stuff and I know what I'm thinking, but actually having a specific, this is what I want to get out of this meeting, I think is going to be really helpful. And then making a list of my strengths. From a confidence perspective, I kind of taken that, like, actually, like you were talking when Hadley was saying about, saying you're a new advisor and stuff like that, actually showing that, what my background is, what, how I am different from other advisors, and kind of having that means that I can take that to networking events, I can take that to anybody new I speak to. And I think that's something that I need to kind of get into my head and keep saying to myself frequently, this is what I'm good at, and this is why just kind of having that confidence boost. Yeah.
Love it. Perfect. That's all I have. There you go. I shall, Leanne, I don't know, I wasn't expecting you to, I thought you had a meeting, so I thought you weren't staying. I don't know whether you want to add something to this, like benefits for you, anything you want to add?
I was on a meeting for the majority. When I turned my camera back on, I'd come off. But I know the guys have said it, but thank you so much. Like I said to you, the support has been up and down with Quilter, and obviously getting to know you over the last couple of months, I just thought that you would be amazing for these guys. So if you've got any questions, guys, after, apparently I'm your glorified PA, so feel free to ask me any questions and stuff, because Nell is great and she's got a fantastic group of people, and I'd love for you to work with her. And ideally, I want our group to be the success story of Quilter, because we were the first people to do our exams in that short time frame. So I don't want people to think it doesn't work. So yeah, kind of any questions, feel free to shout. But thank you for your time, Nell. I'm sure it's been so helpful.
Absolute pleasure. I will send a few things across to you, Leanne, but if anything else comes out, let me just stop the recording actually.